reading the story from the various news outlets, I must say that I was really, disturbed. I was really, really disturbed. This whole issue of the energy crisis and trying to make it look like whenever the NDC is in power, then there will be power crisis or doomsday is disturbing. It's actually a testament of how wicked the past governments have been to this country. And the fact that the past governments, which is the ex-president and his vice, they do not really care about this country. In fact, they just started by trying to, sabotage the government of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama even before it started. Because, tell me why, and I read that these issues that we are having to deal with the energy sector stemming from some maintenance that has to be done by WAPCO was supposed to be done October last year, and it was postponed to January, as if they knew they were going to lose the election. Postponed to January, and knowing that by that postponement, we needed to buy fuel to be able to power our thermal plants, they decided also not to make such provision. So for a government that came and inherited a fairly good or a healthy energy ministry, where we had provided power batches, where we had made the necessary, the necessary arrangements for them, even creating ESLA to support the energy sector and everything. You come and while you are leaving, you leave without making provision for the fuel that is needed for powering the thermal plants, knowing very well that you have postponed the maintenance of WAPCO to January this year. So for me, I see it as a clear sabotage, pure and simple. But His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and his government, it's not like the past government. We will not blame Russia-Ukraine war or anything. We are going to put our hands to the wheel and work. And we have seen evidence of that when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama yesterday set up a committee with key stakeholders from the major, power-producing companies to ensure that we find a solution to this problem. Right now, as I sit here, I was looking at some news item. I think that the news I am reading currently is that we are purchasing some gas from Nigeria. I don't know, I'm watching, I think, Adom or something. So I believe that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the team of experts he puts together under the leadership of the Chief Justice, Honorable Julius Deborah, will put their hands to the wheel and then find a solution to this problem. But I am deeply sad by what we are witnessing now.
Okay. There was the transitional discussions.
Yes.
John Jinapo says that they were given assurances. Mm-hmm. If you take a look or make reference to what the outgone Minister for Energy, Mr. Krapper, did put out on Facebook, he insists that everything was in line. This is certainly not the case. The response from the MPP side is you were sleeping on the job.
How were we sleeping on the job?
Justify
we got the job on 7th January. There's a transition team. But before then, you had made certain provisions, okay? That was what I'm saying, that you had made certain decisions that a maintenance that was supposed to be done last year in October should be pushed forward to January. So definitely, you would know that when the gas lines are being shut down, you will need crude to be able to support the power generation. So you, as a government that is outgoing, even before you go, you were supposed to make such provisions. And like you mentioned, even if we are to call for or to purchase crude, it would take weeks for it to get to Ghana here. And we just got power on 7th January. Their plan was to set us up to fail even before we began. But like I said, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has the perfect pair of hands, and he has all the experts on his side, and he's willing to include all that are willing to help to make sure that we bring a solution to this. We are not going to belabor the point of, blaming people too much. We are going to put our hands on the wheel. But like I said, usually the NPP is a group of people that think Ghanaians do not see through them, or maybe we do not pay attention to the issues around us. Before you set the agenda, we've already seen through you. So we've seen through the agenda and putting out this notes by Mr. Crapper to make it look like they did everything right. But if you did everything right, the fuel should be here by now. Because from 7th to today is 9th. 7th to 9th, when you bring the fuel, it takes weeks. And it's just been 3 days. So why is the fuel not here to help us power our plants?
Lorato, why did you decide to sabotage the John Mahama government? Just like 2 days or 48 days, 48 hours.
Good morning, Roland, once again. Good morning to everyone on the table, and good morning to our viewers. I mean, this is the first time on the set after all that has happened, and I think congratulations are in order for the president and the vice president and all the MPs who have been duly elected to lead a charge for our dear country. So we congratulate them and we wish them well. I mean, any well-meaning Ghanaian will wish them well, because good or bad is Ghana and it's nowhere else. So we wish them well. Roland, that's quite an interesting question to ask. That why will we...
Why is that an interesting question?
Why will we sabotage the incoming administration? There's a reason why we have a Transition Act. There's a reason why these things are done. And one thing we all need to note is there's no campaign after election. Once you're voted for to run the affairs of this country, is work and not campaign promises or blame game. We went for an election on the 7th of December. The good people of this country gave the mandate to the NDC, led by the current president, that the promises, the things they said, was what resounded with them. There was a transition committee that was put together that has been going through all these things. So it would be ridiculous for anybody to say that the immediate past administration wanted to sabotage this.
Why not? Or why can't that conclusion be made, Laura?
What were the conversations that were had? I'm just seeing the WAPCO, the Gridco report
on
WAPCO. And I think they gave 3 recommendations as to what can be done for the way forward. And one of it is rescheduling the maintenance. It's a possibility. It's a matter of planning. Maintenance had to be done, was postponed based on a request by the Energy Ministry. We need to eschew that appetite of trying to court unwarranted sympathy.
What do you mean by that?
When we come into government and do what we've promised the people of Ghana to do. We are not dealing with an administration that is new to the happenings of this country. This is an administration that has gone through transition, unless these conversations and these reports didn't come up at the transition.
John Jinapo says, this came up. The assurance was given by the outgoing government that the procurement will be initiated. The processes for procurement will be initiated. By industry standards, you do the procurement, and then the delivery is done in 4 weeks.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But wasn't there,
and then when it comes the 4th week, they spend another 4 weeks to be able to get it to the plant.
Wasn't there a directive to hold on to all procurements when the transition started? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Again, I'll reiterate what John Jinapo said, a former Deputy Energy Minister. The assurance was given by the outgoing government that the processes for purchasing will be initiated. Apparently, it was not done. What's the explanation?
And can you reiterate what the immediate past energy minister also said?
He says that it is available, they should check. But the checks did indicate.
And you believe,
yesterday at the meeting, there was...
Herbert Crapper.
Okay. So apart from John Jinapo also insisting this is an emergency, there were Gridco officials who were in a meeting that was chaired, and we covered it live, by the chief of Sajulos, Deborah. And they did indicate this was a crisis because the purchases had not been done. You know, Gridco cannot do purchases. They're just the transmitter.
What I'm saying is, you are reiterating what John Jinapo said.
Yes.
And I'm saying that what Herbert Crapper said, you don't believe it. You believe what John Jinapo is saying as against the immediate past minister. Is that what you're saying?
Okay. So John Jinapo has his version, and then we have the former energy minister also having his version. The reality is that the stakeholders at the meeting with the chief of staff yesterday, that's the first day of the new government, admits that we don't have the crude or the purchases made.
And
so I'll take the stakeholders.
And their recommendations to it.
Recommendations to what?
The story I read.
Because the purchases have not been made. The fact is, the purchases have not been made. We don't have crude.
Aparo, we need to be clear and just be open in some of these.
Why did you do that to the government?
Nobody did anything to the government.
It clearly shows that was done.
Reiterate what the former energy minister also said.
Is it sabotage?
How can this be sabotage? Why? Don't we live in this country? Who comes into this government? So why was the transition process carried on? Why would anybody want to do that? You believe what John Jinapo said. You don't believe what Herbert Crapper, who was at the helm of affairs.
Until I listened to the stakeholders, Gridco and the officials
and
there,
the report,
I only put out what John Jinapo said. Crapper also said. Basically, I listened to the stakeholders who are the industry players as well as those who do the transmission, etc. And they said what the former energy minister said does not exist.
John just raised caused panic and fear, for lack of a better description. He said what? We have only 5 hours of what left. Turns around and the committee is chaired for him to chair it. Look, let's be very fair. There's no campaign after election. The energy minister has put out what the situation is. Crisis when it comes to power and those things. We can't say that for the 8 years that the New Patriotic Party was in power, lights never went off. There were intermittent power cuts, but not to the magnitude of what we knew post-2017. Fast forward, we've gone for an election. There's a new administration. There was a transition process. What is the new administration supposed to do? Fix what the situation is. In the last address of the now majority leader, then minority leader, said what? They gave advice. They knew all the issues in this country. They knew all the solutions. They spoke to the people of, they spoke to the government. The government didn't listen. They know how to fix it. Fix it. And stop all this trying to play to the gallery and trying to play the victim. Why would anybody want to sabotage the Republic of Ghana? If they have evidence to the fact that someone set out to sabotage this government, let's put it there and stop all these mind games. The report comes and gives, there's a problem, yes. What is the way forward? Is it a possibility to postpone the maintenance exercise? What are the options and all those things that they gave all those things in the report? What are we doing about it? That is what the new administration should be telling us. Not telling us that someone is trying to sabotage. If there is evidence that anybody is sabotaging this administration, they should put it out there. Elections are over. Let's stop all these petty mind games and these things. And let's face the issue. If there's no light, will you sleep? If there's darkness, will you sleep in light? Will I sleep in light? Are we not all Ghanaians? Is elections not over? Then fix it and stop all these petty mind games.
Dr. Namankwa, how curious is it then that purchases that are supposed to be made way back in time to be used to power the plants, for light to be generated, subsequently transmitted and distributed, is not available. Now, at the end of the day, there cannot be no conclusion that is on sabotage.
Well, I will not call it sabotage at all.
What would you call it,
but
Dr. Susan Edouard Mankwa?
Mismanagement, and people who didn't know how to manage this country, and we gave it to them, and they have continuously proved to us that they didn't know how to manage this government, this country. And so for me, it's not surprising, because I'm looking at Herbert Kramper's message, and he says, by the time of leaving office, President Akufo-Addo's government left in stock light crude oil, which Sen Power currently generates with, and whilst AKSA continues to take delivery of heavy fuel oil, which generates power with how much? Because it could have been a teaspoon. I mean, he could have been much more specific. They may have left something because the lights are still on, okay? So they may have left something, but how much did they leave? Is it enough to give the new administration, how would I put it, some level of comfort, so that they can then, now begin to do purchases? You understand? Because what they should have left should have been maybe enough to cover for 2 months, and then it gives the new government time to get into the groove and then cover for the rest of their term. So how much did they leave? That's what we want to know, because because they may have left something, but it may not be enough, and that is why we have this looming crisis. Yesterday there were parts of Sakumono that were off.
Really?
Yes. I mean, there were whole swathes of darkness in certain parts.
Power cuts?
I don't know whether power cuts, but there was darkness. There were no lights. So obviously there was no power, you understand, in places. I know people who complained of Adenta on the 7th of January, who were complaining that they were unable to watch the immigration because there was no light in Adenta and certain other places in Accra. And I'm sure if you call, your listeners will testify to that. You understand? So we know that the previous government, didn't know how to handle this government, this country, and mismanaged it. Because look, when you're handing over to somebody and you know what you're about, you hand over enough. You understand? For the person then to come and get into a groove. Maybe this gives a case for us to move our elections to November, so that we can have.
You think the solution is to move the elections to November as a result of that?
Yeah, I mean, no. We should learn. When we get experiences like this, we should learn. I'm not talking about as a solution to our energy crisis. I'm talking about a long-term solution to some of these
problems. To give enough time for transition.
To give enough time for transition. You understand? Because these are some of the experiences that we get out of situations like this, okay? And these are lessons we must learn and put measures into place. So I think that this government has been talking about constitutional reform. One of the things that we should really look at is shifting our election dates maybe to November, so that some of these problems can be resolved. If it takes 8 weeks to do something, yes, 8 weeks, then we have the 8 weeks to do that. One of the things also that we need to look at, and I'm looking also in terms of long term, is that there should be truthful and openness in the transition, and there should be time to verify. Yes, you will trust, but you must verify, because it looks as if the NDC just trusted. I'm surprised that the NDC were so naive to trust the MPP, to think that anything that the MPP said was truthful. I'm shocked at such naivety.
You mean they should have distrusted them from the beginning?
Yes, they should have distrusted them, that they have no love for this country.
Dr. Edouard Mankwa, people should be able to speak with faith.
But you verify. So they can trust that what they've said, okay, you've said this, okay, we trust you, but we will do our checks to ensure that you are speaking the truth. You understand? We've had 8 years of the MPP. We know how they are. okay, and what kind of character they have shown us as a country. So they say something, you take it with a pinch of salt and you go ahead. If you go and it is like that, you say, oh, good, that's nice. If you go and it is not so, then you correct it. You understand? So my thing is that I think that the NDC have not, what do you call it? I don't know why they trusted the MPP, because when they said that they had flight crew, they should have asked for how much, how long will it take, what is the because
John Jinapor said they asked, and they say then kickstart the processes of purchase. They said they did. That's what John Jinapor says. And this has been confirmed by the industry people at that meeting yesterday with Julius Debra, the chief of staff, that apparently nothing has been done.
So why did they trust that the people who do it? I mean, why did they trust
but
them?
You have a minister of state.
Stop it. So right now, we have seen that what they said was not true. Anna. I mean, we are living it. Why are we having this discussion in the first place? If they left enough to cover the whole of January, or to cover enough for the 8 weeks that it takes to get a new supply, I have said in the first place, one, the MPP did not manage this country well. Because, look, we all know how to do stock taking. You have a minimum stock of things that makes sure that you don't have breaks in your transmission or whatever. You understand? You know that it takes 8 weeks. If you start purchasing things in January, you end up in February or even in March before it comes. They should have started purchasing somewhere in November, okay, or October. You understand? So ideally, they didn't do that. You people came into government on the 7th of December. You know that they didn't do it. You understand? Or they said they had done it. You didn't cross-check to see that they said they had done it. You should have cross-checked. So, as much as we can, cite that the MPP did not do as they said they would do, I think that the NTC also was too naive to believe what they said and have played into their hands. Okay. You understand? And then all of us suffer. You get it. But
why should it be the NDC's fault when you have a minister of state? Because who manages the energy minister?
Hey, Papa Ro.
So Papa Ro, the thing is...
Why should it be? I don't understand. Explain this better for me, Dr.
I am saying that the NDC should not have trusted what the MPP said, and they should have verified. But what will you do? Well, I mean, do what you have to do right now to resolve it. I think that we have been in this energy crisis before. We should have learned certain lessons that do it. We need to categorize the places that are emergency. How can we continuously supply them? Then the places that are not so emergency, what can we do till this thing? That is why we have a crisis management team, and the crisis management team is supposed to look at it. Industry. Can we get industry to have maybe go on 50% power thing so that they never go off? So they should bring their power to a certain point so that they can keep production and never go off, but maybe use 50% of the power that they require. You understand? Then other places, hospitals, this. Let's start putting that into place. Of course, let's start our procurement things, and see how we can get it. Is 8 weeks the maximum? Can it be done in 6 weeks? Can it be done in a month? You understand? What can be done quickly? I mean, can we go to Nigeria? Can Nigeria supply us within a month? Whatever it is. How much supply do we have there? I think one of the things that the NDC have to do is to be very open with us and say, this is how much we were left, okay? And Grandpa can come and say it was not true or whatever. But this is how much we were left. It will cover us for this. These are the places that the lights will go off. They shouldn't ask us to bring our own timetable, okay? These are the places that the lights will go off. This is how we're going to do it. This is Nigeria will supply us, or whoever will supply us. It will come in a month, and in a month we would have, and maybe this will go on for the next 3 months. So let's expect this to go on for the next 3 months, and this is how we would live. Okay. I think that when they are open and transparent with us and all the processes, and we can all look at a time clock and things that are happening, our impatience will not be so much with the NDC. I think discerning Ghanaians know that the NDC have only been in power for 3 days or whatsoever. And so if there's a crisis today and tomorrow, the lights that were off yesterday in places, the lights that were off in Adenta on the 7th, does not necessarily mean it's not the NDC's fault. We know who to blame for that. But I think that, basically, let's start thinking of how this experience will not happen to us again.
Nana Chimpinjanto, you've been with the PRC. I mean, Public Utility and Regulatory Commission. After you transition out of regulation, etc., and that mainstream, you even went into civil society activism for the sector with COSECA. Apart from just being a mainstream politician. So your experience is very vast, PURC regulation, the sector, downstream, etc., upstream as well. You look at what the standard operating procedures were, something definitely was not done right.
Yes, exactly. Let me say congratulations to the Honorable Julius Debra for his appointment as the Chief of Staff. A very great man, a very wonderful person, and a very efficient person. I agree with, that's what, you see, the whole of last night, my heart was broken. It was broken because I was, how can this happen? I then said, how can we get here? And especially the fact that the MPP kept saying that Dumso will be back. Nobody really found out what mechanism they were going to use to bring Dumso back.
How do you mean? You mean this was orchestrated?
No, I'm just saying that they were not, they had lost and they knew they were losing, but they said Dumso will be back. So I was like, what are they going to do to bring Dumso back? You get it? In their case, they said the yes was Dumsisi. But if your rival is nice to you, it doesn't mean that your rival likes you.
If your rival
is nice to you, it doesn't mean that your rival likes you.
It doesn't mean that your rival likes you. That's a profound statement.
Yes.
What do you mean by this?
I am just saying I'm going with Auntie Susie here. Oh, let me say good morning and Happy New Year to my auntie and my sisters. I'm going with Auntie Susie here to say that if your opponent assures you that he has purchased or he's put in place the processes of purchasing crude oil, you should let him show you the document that is covering the purchase.
So the NDC should have been monitoring
that's one
the transaction.
You should let them, because you go through a process and there's documentation at every step of the way, especially at the background that your opponent kept saying that when His Excellency John Dramani Mahama takes office, there will be Dumso. So this one is like the I don't care syndrome. That the MPP didn't really care. Do it and let's see. And they didn't think that at the back of it, they will be hurting Ghanaians. You get it? Because Kappa, a very fine gentleman, I was surprised at his statements. And it means the anger of the MPP is quite deep. That he managed it so Honorable John Jinapo should manage it. Yesterday, I found out from my calls around the sector that Sem Power has only, as at last night, had only 6 hours crude cover.
Stock?
Yes.
6 hours?
Yes.
Sem Power?
Sem Power. That's what I was told yesterday. If they are wrong, I am also wrong. So at the transition team, there was the need to dig deeper. You see, when you are dealing with your opponent, at that point, the person might be your brother, your sister, but you are not cronies. Because your interest at that point is different. What you are interested in is different from what I am interested in. As long as interests are different, you do not rely on anybody's assurances. Otherwise, you go wrong. And you see, I'm saying that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama coming into power, he should start looking for the landmines in all the sectors.
Which will be the landmines then?
You can't. This is one landmine that we have just plunged into.
You are saying that they set traps for the new government?
Yes.
Traps?
Yes, these are landmines, serious. So you see, it is orchestrated. You hear the MPP talking, this, you see what we will do to you. We are not going to make it easy for you. You see, when a tiny thought tells you that, they will slap you. A tiny thought in parliament over less than 100 members, they said they will slap you.
Tiny thoughts?
Yes. Then you should know and find out what is behind them. What is the plan? Do you understand me? Because look at the numbers, it's not much, but they are so, you see, when they speak, they have a lot of confidence in themselves, saying that we are not going to make it easy for you. They were in government before you came. What are the landmines? So right now, the government of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama should start looking at landmines. You have the transition report, you need to go beyond it. Because me, I was saying that when you, from my experience at the energy sector, sometimes the utilities will bring you reports that if you don't have the expertise to unravel what they are saying, you might not know what exactly is in there. So, going forward, there is the need for us to really look at the transition notes. Sometimes some of the things might not even be there. So as you step wherever you are going, you have to look for the landmines. Otherwise, by the time everybody realizes, the government will be firefighting, catching fire here and there, trying to get fire tenders to put off the fire that will be coming out. You see, there is also systemic problems. Systemic problems whereby, why do I say that? It should not lie with government to buy crude oil for the sector. We should find a tariff structure to cater for fuel as in crude in the tariff. It might short the tariff up, but there should be ways. We should sit down around the table and think through how we can remove that burden from the shoulder of government. Because if you are doing, the MPP was doing $55 million, I think, every month or so for crude to support the sector. Why has this happened? Because at a point, the MPP said that they have reduced tariffs. And when they reduced that 20% tariff, they then noticed that it brought a gaping revenue shortfall, a deficit. And that deficit was now the responsibility of the government to show up. So anytime they said things like, oh, His Excellency Mahama signed PPAs, that, I mean, we are paying for it.
You mean IPPs?
Yes, the
Agreement.
PPAs.
The PPAs,
The
okay, power purchase agreement.
I always ask them the question, which of the plants has these PPAs that are not being used? Because before a PPA is signed, you have to look at all the commercial arrangements, and that IPP is put in the grid. So that tariff will be in the tariff of the general tariff of the PURC. So if there is a PPA that the plant is sitting idle, you don't pay anything. But they said they are paying for PPA. I was a bit surprised at it, but I mean, I asked them for the plants, they couldn't even mention the plant. They kept mentioning America. I said, America is in the tariff. Then they mention Kappa. I said, Kappa is in the tariff. So which one are you talking about? So this political thing about we will reduce tariffs, that is what brought about most of these issues. So going forward, I believe that with the systemic this thing, we should get that fuel into the tariff so that that burden is lifted off. But as it stands now, I believe that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama and the team should immediately uncap ESLA.
You should uncap it? Immediately.
Because ESLA was put together by us. I was part of the team.
You were part of the team that put together?
Yes, with my boss, Mr. Sapon. We were all there. So to ESLA to make sure, my boss, Mr. Sapon, was the lead person, to make sure that the inflows from ESLA is used to deal with some of these things till there is stabilization. Looking at whatever I have here, it means that the picking will be for a period of 3 weeks. I heard that Nigeria has been magnanimous enough to shift the picking to February. which will give us maybe some leeway to be able to make all the commercial arrangements concerning the fuel. But because I am happy because Bola Tinubu, His Excellency Bola Tinubu Ahmed, came here and said that I am a door away. I am ready to support
So
you.
there's an opening.
There's an opening. So I believe that that kind of opening is going to help. Okay. But we should not rest. Because you see, now I heard Bui is being run not as a picking plant, but as a base load. That's, you can now, Bui can be run 3 months continuous as a base load. Because it normally comes on at the peak period. The hydro is at full blast. They are drafting more than they can do. Then there's all of the hydro is being drafted very well. So it's maximization to help. But the shortfall is 1,000 megawatts. Which will
have to be rationalized in
me,
between the
like,
peak and off-peak periods.
Yes, so I am like, how do we do this? 1,000 megawatts is a lot of load. Even 300 megawatts bring problems to us. But all I am saying is that going forward into the future, we should not, listen to assurances. We need to have evidence to the assurances. You get me? So that, at the end of the day, Ghanaians will not go through what we are going through. I don't know that gas is coming from Nigeria. Maybe I'm a bit distant, but I don't know which plant, which pipeline, or maybe they are bringing it just through the WAPCO because they are not doing the maintenance
yet.
So
the maintenance will start
in February. They said in February.
20th of January.
No, they've now rescheduled it. Okay. That's what I hear. So then they will give us, the WAPCO will give us some gas. Then it means that we will have time to, deal with the issues with the fuel.
I've loved how you have exhibited your knowledge really in the industry, and it looks like you have a tap on this. And I think your experiences at PURC and with COSECA have all been brought to bear. And so far, our sources within the sector are indicating that you're right on SEMPA. Asogli so far has no stock.
Yes, Asogli has no
stock. Zero.
No stock, yes, zero.
We wish you well. Yes, and then AXA has...
Have they been paid?
Well, they've been giving some...
That is also, something has been given.
I will ask you, just Ejapoma, let's look at the industry people, then we'll come to you. Then
Okay.
AXA has stock to last for 5 days.
Yes.
That's AXA, from key industry people. The top.
5 days, yeah.
And the plant at Kpong has stock that will last for a day. So let's assume it's 24 hours.
Yeah.
24 hours.
So
now,
it seems nothing was really done to put in place a contingency for the fuel to be purchased. And I don't know, is it because Bananado says he's left us some money. He said he's left some huge amounts of money for the country. So I don't know why. That is why
8 billion. I had 8 billion.
8 billion. So that is why everybody would think that this is, I told you so, I do not care. Deliberate a landmine and all that, because if truly you have that amount of money sitting, going through the purchases of crude oil should not be a headache for you, because you need a $90 million to do that. So I don't think it should be anything that you cannot do. $90 million, maybe 1 point something,
or nearly 1.5 billion.
A billion Ghana cedis, and if you take it out, it will not be much. So I do not know, but you see, it is a huge amount, considering what our country is. So we need to really, as a matter of urgency, restructure our tariff.